Okay, and we'll see if this second video records properly. But okay, so here on the larger time frames, you can see we still identify the much larger time frames in a cycle. Do not worry about how we identify that now. Okay, this specifically what I'm showing you within our system is just to show you how to take the trade. So right now, Bitcoin is at a temporary cycle low period to which we will start to see some upside. There will be some upside, there will be some downside, there will be some upside, and again, some followed by some more downside. And when you're taking these trades, again, remember the most important thing is to identify trend and identify a turning point. Based on my forecast, you will start to see the turning points come in. It is up to you whether or not, when you see that the market starts to turn down, whether or not you want to exit for some profits and buy the low when I see the market start to turn around. Okay, so for example, if we're looking at the 32-minute, because it's in an accumulation stage, it's really hard to identify trend. You would assume, because we had a turning point 1 come in higher than 9, and that 2 came in higher than 10, that we were in an uptrend only to see a lower 3 and a lower 4. Again, it's my job to identify it based on the higher time frames. Why? Because the higher time frames determines trend. Okay, not the lower time frames. It's much harder to scalp positions than it is to take swing positions. So here we can clearly see that the market is moving upwards very slowly, and I will help you guys identify, okay, what the cycles look like on the much higher time frames to identify the lower time frames and eventually your scalp positions, so that you can enter in and out of your trades, and you can use that even to correlate the altcoins. Now, some of your altcoins will spike just sporadically out of nowhere. So in a very big market cycle low, and you get the signal from me to say, hey, the low is in, it's time to ladder into your positions. Okay. And if you're not, then you really shouldn't be in cryptocurrencies, because if you can't identify what a low market cycle looks like, for sure you will never benefit from the green candles. So when I give certain high points and certain signals, especially on Bitcoin, again, it's your job to take some profit. And if we look at the 2048, we're going to take a look at this particular cycle that I'm looking at. Okay. Now, this is a much higher time frame. We had this deviation from price with a downturn, an accumulative stage, okay, sideways accumulation stage, where we should start to see some upside. Okay, now this particular signal was hard to call. It makes the market makers make it, they stretch it out. There's what's called time expansion, where they try and stretch it out as much as they can during accumulation phases in order to either spike or drop the markets. That's how they make their money. And it's our job to recognize when they're doing that so that we can start to sell out of our green candles. Now, I have this little yellow box here. Some analysts would have told you that because we're sitting in this big triangle that we're suddenly going to drop. An ascending triangle usually likes to deviate to the downside. The type of technical analysis I use doesn't just rely on turning points, it relies on a bunch of other factors. So for now, when you start to see the higher time cycle turn around to the upside, and I start to show you these bigger targets, it's time to ladder out of your positions. This particular forecast, we've got May, June as a time to exit our candles, because I believe that there will be another form of deviation in price to the downside. And again, based on where she stops, because again, I can't forecast, like right down to the dollar. Some of you guys have seen me do that, but what we're looking at is overall market structure to take what's called healthy trades. And this requires patience. If you're not patient, for sure, you will FOMO or you will make a mistake or something will happen where you lose out on the trade and then you're stuck hodling. And when I discuss tokenomics, we're going to do kind of a deeper dive into tokenomics so that it helps you understand why tokenomics is so important when trading out of a candle, and especially when you're trying to correlate Bitcoin's movement in order to sell out of the green and buy the red. To me, this is a big deal. A lot of influencers make these ridiculous mistakes about how high they think the price is going to go based on the coin that they're holding. And I'm going to help show you guys that using tokenomics and overall market structure, including the stock markets and the US dollar and all that kind of stuff. So that's for another video, but for now, we're going to start to look at these turning points very succinctly. When you look at this GAN fan, okay, and you start to see that this price is rising up this fan line, okay, unless there is a big green vertical candle or something else to kind of show the structure of the market, your only concentration should be really your targets that you're looking for. Now, some of the turning points can get very tight, okay? And it's possible that we're going to see a very tight turning point 3 with a long dragged out 4, and then a big spike for May and June. That can happen, okay? And again, I won't trade out of my longer term forecasts until I see them play out. I would rather risk a bearish situation and try to ladder into positions. Unless I full out say to you guys, bear market's coming, you're to be buying, because I'm looking at even bigger time frames than just what you see in front of you, okay? Much bigger time frames, okay? And there is a potential that we could see a very bearish market in the summertime, followed by another big spike come at the end of this year. And again, I will help you guys identify that. So for now, you're gonna just look at your trade, look at your turning points, okay? And you're gonna see my forecasts, okay? When we start to accept a trade is when we've fully identified a turning point in the market. And what'll happen is, I'm not going to go too much into GAN or GAN theory. That's more or less for my program. It's a $3,000 program where we teach you how to forecast these turning points, okay? This is just specifically for me to show you guys the signals. When this price starts to move outside of this, what you see this green semicircle, this is the GAN, the GAN fan here, but this structure right here is an arc curve we call the kill zone. In our software, we've now been able to show that when it turns green here, and that I've identified a turning point or a potential turning point, that when you take this trade, you can start to take some profit at the next turning point. Okay, now I have seen turning points go completely parabolic. Okay, so you got to be mindful that that can also happen before we identify the next turning point. So it could be that we touch here at the 1.5. Okay, now when you're looking at this, you've got the 0.5, the 1, the 1.5, the 2, and the 2.5. This is a fib forecast. Okay, we don't use Fibonacci the same way a lot of other guys use Fibonacci. It's not really a good way to, and I'm not going to go into detail about it now, but you're just going to see these points because they typically, like a price likes to deviate from quadrants, and I don't want to go into too much detail about why these quadrants exist for price. It has a lot to do with astrological stuff and things that don't need discussing here. All you have to do is look at this forecast. Okay, you accept a trade outside of this kill zone here, this green semicircle. It'll start to travel up a fan line, the price, and typically they like to stay constant. Okay, so I'm gonna show you guys on the higher time frame what that means. Okay, and we're gonna look at all these turning points, maybe since back here when I started to tell people to ladder in their positions. So there's a few times where price will stop, and it's fun to watch it stop exactly. I mean, it's almost unnerving how this time forecasting works because it can work incredibly well. Here you see a breakout in turning point two up to 3. Okay, price, you will notice, gets a certain amount of resistance within certain quadrants at 100% time, 200%, 300% time. Okay, so now here we have a total breakout to the fib level of 1. Okay, then you have a fib level resistance of 1.5, and we have the fib level 2. Now, if you look at this fib level, look at where those candles stopped, the bodies of the candles. If that doesn't shock you, we'll keep demonstrating what that means. Okay, so it stopped dead on. Okay, and deviated down in price. Okay, now we're going to look at turning point 2. Okay, here you'll start to see that there was resistance at the 0.5, and look at the 0.1. Look at all these wicks. Okay, they're practically stopping dead on. And I will help you guys identify the turning point. Okay, now they will stop either at the 0.5, the 0.1. Now on an uptrend, you will start, especially in a bull market, you will start to see there will be resistance at certain levels, and I will show you what these levels look like. Okay, so right now it received a lot of resistance at the 0.1 where we had this downwards action. This drop fell right out of the kill zone, right out of the Gann fan. It went to the 3 on the fib. We don't have that here, but you'll be able to see that at the next turning points. Again, it stopped here at the 0.1. Down here, this one, and this is why I was saying this one was incredibly hard to call, but since we are sitting here at the 0.5, okay, it leads to me to believe that we are sitting in a lot of accumulation here. Okay, again here at the 0.5, we stopped here at the 0.1, stopped here at the 0.5, and I will show you guys when I start to see either the 0.1, the 1.5, or the 2 come into play. On a longer term forecast, I would rather you guys look for my higher time frames, and I will identify them with bigger boxes so that you don't think that the price is just going to stop here and that we're going to suddenly go bearish. Can that happen? Yes, but I want you guys to focus on, because again, I use a time interval in order to call the much higher time frames. So in this case, I am looking for turning point 3 to come in either here, here, or up here. Now, I just put this here just in case that there is a rejection. Does that mean that we're going to reject? Absolutely not. It could be that we come up to the 1.5 here at 52,000, deviate for turning point 3 down to 4 with a big spike for 5. Okay, so we're just gonna stop this particular video. But again, when you're trying to take a trade, okay, I'm gonna now show you guys the time forecasting in this next video, and then you guys can then watch how this price moves up certain fan lines and spikes and then drops. Okay, see you guys in that next video.